Hello guys, welcome to World History for the week. I just wanted to take some time to take you through our colonialism project. It is the end of the unit, woohoo! So this is your end of unit assessment, which is the My Country project. Now that we're in Google Classroom here, I just wanted to show you how to navigate to my webpage, which has all of the directions and info for your My Country project, and also give you guys a reminder that during live class this week we will be doing a notebook check, so make sure you bring your notebook. I'll be checking off that you have been taking notes on the Newsella readings as well as the play posits and any other handouts that we've had during live class. So if we head to the classwork page here and resources, here's where we have our units, all topics, if you want to filter things just by unit. But if you go to the resources, you can always see the master schedule, the syllabus, but I've also recently posted the My Country project. So please follow along. Go ahead and open up the directions as well as your Google site from last semester. So last semester you created your countries, and if you are new to the class this semester, I'm going to ask that you head to this build tab and follow the directions on there. You're going to have a little extra work to do because you're going to have to start with the first step of building your country project. But if you already got your country built, you can go ahead and go to our colonialism tab over here. And here's where all of the directions are. So, like before, this project's going to be broken down into two parts, kind of a research, show what you know from the unit part, as well as a how does colonialism, imperialism tie to your country. So let's just start with the directions here. Again, this is kind of an end of unit assessment. So we're looking at the motivations and impacts of colonialism and imperialism on Africa, Asia, as well as your own country. For part one, you're going to be creating some sort of infographic about the motivations and impacts of colonialism or imperialism on either a continent or a specific country within that continent. For those of you that don't know, an infographic is a representation of information in a graphical format designed to make the details easily understandable at a glance. It combines images, diagrams, charts, maps, tables, photographs, timelines, other images, with written captions. So there definitely is a element of writing to it, but it is heavily based on images. Your project's going to be housed in a new page for your Google site, which I would like for you to create right now in your own project. Your own site. So as you recall, if you have your country project open and you go to the edit tab, you can insert a new page here, okay, by going to pages and creating a new page, and you'll just want to title it colonialism. So go ahead and do that now. So part one, the infographic part, you're going to do some research, use what you know from our previous live classes, as well as maybe conduct a little more outside research. You'll also use what you learned in our jigsaw activity from last week. And you're basically looking at two things. motivations for imperialism in either Africa or Asia. You're just picking one of those. And then the impacts of imperialism in either Africa or Asia. You're also free, if you don't want to look at the continent as a whole and you'd rather look at a specific country within those continents, you can take a more zoomed in approach, or just look at the continents on as a whole. Again, use your class notes or live class slides, the 5.3 project case studies assignment that you did last week. Live class slides are linked below on here. For actually creating your infographic, there are a number of different web pages that you can use. I have those linked here. The one that I've used the most is PictoChart for a digital aspect, but you can also explore some of these. You might have to create like a free account or something like that. Alternative options, if you don't want to go the digital route, or if you're more comfortable with some other softwares, you could make a hard copy poster, right? And get some poster board and create a poster if you're more on the artistic side. You could do some stuff in Google Slides. You could also use any other software such as Photoshop if you're more comfortable with that. But I don't want you to have to use any software that you don't have access to or spend any money on this project whatsoever. Feel free to email me, reach out if you need any of those resources. I have 3 resources for you here. Week 2 live class, we looked at Philippines imperialism. Last week we looked at decolonization with that graphic organizer, and then I also have a crash course video if you just need a little more overview of some of the motivations of imperialism. So you could spend some time today looking at that just to kind of prime your brain. Part 2, so infographic is part 1. Part 2 is the thinking about colonialism of your country. So you built up your country last semester, you have the infographic, now you're going to think, okay, how did colonialism or imperialism come into my country? You could think of it as, was your country colonized? Or does your country have some colonial aspirations? But this one is fairly open to what you want to do. I have a couple of examples here. And you clearly want to label this in your Google site as part 2. You could just write a couple of paragraphs explaining history, motivations, or impacts of colonialism, imperialism on your country. You know, make it creative, tie it into your own country. You could update your map. We looked at a couple of different maps during live class this unit, and think about how the borders were drawn. Remember, we talked about borders and who draws the borders and what impact that can have. So maybe think about colonialism or imperialism, and update your map or add to your map a little bit. You can describe the history of your flag. Maybe your flag has some colonial roots. You can take a look at this link here that shows how the Union Jack, the British flag, is used in so many different flags throughout the world. You could maybe write a narrative or a story about what happened when your country was colonized, or when your country colonized other countries. This could be kind of a more creative writing aspect, first-person narrative. These are just a couple ideas that I came up with. I am open to other ideas. Just feel free to email me and clear it with me first. But this should be a pretty highly creative part on your part. Okay, so again, or moving on to what does a 4 look like fully complete. You can review this here, but you know, you have your infographic. There are some details and learnings from this unit included. You might need to complete some outside research going into more detail of a specific country, and that could include some of the web pages that we looked at last week with your case studies. Reference as to who is colonized the country or the region, as well as their motivation. Reference as to the lasting impacts of colonization imperialism. Includes details as to how that country or continent is faring now. you can use that Freedom Index webpage that we looked at last week. It's heavily based on graphics. I'm going to take a look at creativity and effort. If you just have a couple of squares and circles with some text in them, that's not really that creative. So like, are you thinking about this in a map aspect, or are you using charts and graphs? As well as you're creating the work. You're not just copying and pasting someone else's infographic and work. That's really, really important on this project. And part 2 is fully complete. And then you have external source list in MLA format. So you are citing the sources of where you got your information from. Finally, I just wanted to spend some time here. You can explore some ideas of infographics. These obviously had some solid money and design pumped into them, so these would be like really, really good. But if you right click here, you can open the image as a new tab and explore some of those. So please spend some time doing that. All right, as this is our only project this week, there are no readings, there are no play posits besides this one to kind of give you the info. So go ahead and get started on this project. We will check in during live class, and you will have a solid amount of live class time to work on this. Also, just that reminder again to bring your interactive notebook to live class so that it can get checked and I can give you guys some feedback on that. All right, have an awesome week, guys.